Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Good morning. Everybody's still streaming in. It's a beautiful day outside, a little hot, but it's beautiful. But it's Houston, so I guess technically it's not actually that hot, right? It's kind of nice, which is surprising. My name is Reverend Ed. I am the minister here, and it is great to see all of you here this morning at this place of beloved community. We are happy you are here with us this morning. We have just a couple quick announcements for you this morning. Number one is that after services, you're invited to come to coffee hour, and then after coffee hour, we will go out. The name of the place out there, a small group of us will go out. The name of whatever restaurant it is outside on a marquee out there. If you're interested in coming with us, everyone is invited to come with us to continue the discussion that you might be having, whatever it might be. Also, if something has come up for you, either because of this service or because of something else entirely, we have members of our LPMT team, our late pastoral ministry team. They are here in the room, and you may approach them and talk to them about what may be on your mind. And you can tell them apart because they have, are we wearing, oh yeah, okay, they have yellow name tags on. There's a yellow name tag there. There's one back here. You're invited and welcome to just talk to them, especially if something I say agitates you or something. And the last very quick announcement we have this weekend is this is a sort of internal announcement that those of you who are new here, probably this won't make any sense, but Hillary and Robert are getting married, and they need you to RSVP like yesterday. So if you don't know how to RSVP, you can just talk to me or talk to somebody, and I can help you or they can help you. But there is a part on the Emerson members website for more information on the RSVP link. I think the wedding is, I'm going to say this, it's Saturday the 20th around 11-ish, around 2:30. Thank you. Something's at 11. September 20th. Yes, September 20th. So you have a couple weeks yet, but they need you to RSVP. We have a couple pieces of music included in the service today from Chuck Mangione, who you may have heard died this week. Does anybody remember Chuck Mangione? He was sort of obscure, but he wrote the theme to the 1980 Winter Olympics. And it was one of my first, remember I told you I joined that thing where you mail in a penny and they keep sending you records? It was one of the first records they mailed me back. So Chuck Mangione is special to me, and we have asked Artem to play a couple Chuck Mangione songs, which sounds easy, but this is a jazz quartet, and Artem is going to do it on a piano, all by himself, well, with Craig. So Artem, welcome.
In Unitarian Universalist Sunday churches like this one, across the nation and across the world, we light a chalice at the start of worship and other gatherings. I would like to invite Lissa Wolf to have the honor of lighting our chalice this morning. As Lissa lights our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you joining us from home or away on YouTube to light a candle or chalice of your own. In the words of Reverend Shari Woodbury, the light of the chalice represents the spark of the Spirit cupped in earth's embrace. It represents the light of love alive in all creation, and when we kindle this flame here in the presence of this beloved community, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. When we light the chalice, we hear words of timeless wisdom to help center us for our time together. For the month of August, our chalice lighting words come from Andrea Gibson. Gibson's poetry focuses on gender norms, politics, social justice, LGBTQ, and after her cancer diagnosis, Gibson also began writing poetry on topics including depression, illness, life, and mortality. They were named the Poet Laureate of Colorado in 2025 and died just a couple of weeks ago in July of this year, leaving us with 7 books of poetry and 7 albums of spoken word poetry. This is from their 2021 collection, You Better Be Lightning. Please join me in reading these words as they appear on your screen. I will refuse to call it heaven if the people I love who put me through hell aren't there.
In this congregation, we set aside special times in our service on some Sundays by lighting a candle of joy and remembrance. We don't do this every Sunday, but we are doing it today. Today we have a joy, a concern, and a sorrow. So let me start by saying we light this candle at this point in our service in honor of Daniel Rigney, who died this weekend. We honor him, we remember him, and we welcome him into being an ancestor of this congregation. Let us pause for a moment and remember Daniel Rigney. Emerson welcomes Daniel as an ancestor of this beloved community. Our concern today is for Patty Bertuglia. Patty is Craig's wife. Patty, as you know, if you've been following along, some of you have, Patty had a lung replaced. And although the surgery went well and her prognosis is good, there have been some pretty severe complications from the surgery, and she's going to lose a foot and a couple fingers. So we just pause and hold a moment. Craig tells me that Patty is of good spirits and looks like the prognosis for her return is good, and we just wish her the best as she continues to recover. And then our joy today is a conflicted joy because two folks who've been just wonderful members of this community are moving to Madrid, Spain. So we probably won't see them much anymore. And today is their last day. They're leaving tomorrow. So I'd like to fully embarrass them in front of all of you by allowing you to just say goodbye to them. If you haven't already, Scott, Steve, hiding in the back row, and Lissa. Well, yeah, Lissa Wolf, so I know. I knew that. It's just that you were crying, and that was going to make me cry, so I didn't want to say anything. So I said, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to go like this, and then you had to say something. So you guys, I hope you have a lot of visitors. Thank you for everything you've done for Emerson. And now I welcome Mary to continue us in our service.
We welcome you here today. We welcome you who come here for the first time, the 5th time, or the 500th time. We welcome you who come with heavy hearts or with joyous spirits. We welcome you to be with us as we experience the mysteries of a fully human life together. Please join me in our welcoming. The words will be on the screen. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here.
I invite you now into this place we call Emerson, this place of peace, this place of community, this place of wisdom, and this place of wonder. I would like to offer you a chance to take a moment to center yourselves, to ground yourself in your presence in this place, whether you are here with us in this room or joining us on YouTube. We offer you this moment for yourself. Together, we are the Emerson community. We invite you to allow yourself to breathe, to feel yourself sink into the seat below you, to feel your back on the wood behind you, and your heart and your mind and the wind running through your lungs. And we invite you to connect in a real and valuable way. I invite you to do one of the hardest things anybody can ask you to do. Just be. We will exit this moment of meditation or prayer or peace or whatever you want to call it, together with our voices raised to sing our first hymn. When the time comes, the words will be on the screen, and when the music starts, feel free to stand or sit or sing or not sing. We welcome you now to participate in one of the most important Unitarian Universalist celebrations. This celebration happens in churches throughout the country on most Sundays. We do it here on some Sundays. We ask you, we recognize that when you walk in this door, you are carrying things with you. You are carrying joys, you are carrying concerns, you are carrying sorrows, you are carrying worries, and you are carrying exuberations. We ask you now to bring those joys and those concerns to life. If you are carrying a joy, if you are carrying a concern, we invite you to come forward, light your candle, and breathe these joys and these concerns into this room so that we can see them, share them, and be with them. So we invite you now to come forward and share your joys and concerns. You can light as many as you want. this beautiful display of these tiny little lights, each one representing something that we brought into this building, something that we are holding in our own hearts. These joys and these concerns are the wind that fills this congregation's lungs. They are the blood that runs through this congregation's veins, and they are the marrow that fills its bones. May we honor them. May we sit with them. May we be in the same room with them for as long as we can be. Amen.
Good morning. Today I'll be reading some excerpts from this book, This Day in UU History, by a former Reverend, Frank Schulman, and I've been asked to remind you that this book is available in our bookstore for the cover price with no tax. So from this week in the book, in 1873, the British Parliament passed the Statute Law Revision Act, replacing the Trinity Act of 1813 with more tolerant laws. That 1813 Act repealed the penalties for denying the Trinity, but left it a crime punishable under the common law. The new act passed on this day removed all penalties and gave Unitarians equal rights with all dissenters from the Church of England. And on the 9th of August in 1650, the English Parliament passed the Act Against Several Atheistic, Blasphemous, and Execrable Opinions derogatory to the honor of God. This act led to persecution of Unitarians. And on the 10th, in 1531, Michael Servetus published On the Errors of the Trinity. He was arrested 3 days later in Switzerland and imprisoned for heresy. Reverend Ed?
Was the only person that Calvin executed. I have two opening words for you today. One is a remembrance, and the other is our opening words. Let's remember that 80 years ago this week, on August 6th and August 9th, the United States of America dropped atomic bombs on Japanese cities, one each on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This event took place after 8 years of development and 2 additional years of planning. As parts of those plans, Great Britain gave its consent to the bombing. Canada and the Soviet Union were also made aware, as was Japan, actually, where the U.S. Air Force dropped 63 million leaflets warning people of the air raids. 4 Japanese cities were originally chosen as targets: Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, and Kyoto. Kyoto was later removed from the list and replaced with Nagasaki. In all, 246,000 Japanese died, which is roughly 1 out of every 3 people alive at the time of the bombing in Hiroshima, and about 3 out of every 10 people alive at the time of the bombing in Nagasaki, including a very unlucky 165 people who fled the destruction of Hiroshima, and they went to Nagasaki only to die in that bombing 3 days later. In addition to the immediate deaths, causes of cancer and birth deformities are also increased in the years following the bombing, and severe developmental delays were also marked by those who were in fetus or embryo status at the time of the bombing. 80 years later, we honor the loss of life at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We also honor those 650,000 hibosuka, which is a Japanese word for the survivors of the attack and for their illnesses. May they rest as ancestors of all of us. Let's take a minute and just pause. welcome you now to hear the opening words. And I'm processing this as I do it and realize this is a terrible segue, because we're going to go from Hiroshima and Nagasaki to Winnie the Pooh. And I didn't realize that, and I'm sorry. I beg forgiveness of you. But we hear the words now of Winnie the Pooh, who of course is not real, but is the creation of British author A.A. Milne. Winnie the Pooh first appeared in print 99 years ago. Can you imagine Winnie the Pooh was only 19 years old at the time of the bombings in Japan? I hadn't thought about that. So here is the opening words, and the second reading are both from Winnie the Pooh, the wisdom of Winnie the Pooh, as we transition away from Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Here is the wisdom of Winnie the Pooh. When you are a bear of very little brain and you think of things, you find sometimes that a thing which seemed very thingish inside you is quite different when it gets out into the open and has other people looking at it. And with that, I invite Mary to bring us into our offering.
Emerson's purpose statement is, "Our beloved community of faith, reason, and affection welcomes all to grow in mind and spirit as we build a better world." We remind you of it each week by stating it right on the front of your order of service. We live out our purpose in many different ways. We worship together, we learn together, we lobby together, and we spread our faith through our actions. We also give our time, talent, and treasure to partners in Houston and across the nation and the planet who we feel are living out our purpose in ways that we only wish we could. We support those partners each week at this time in our service. 75% of today's offering will go to our August Share the Plate recipient, the Emerson ESL program. The program was created in 2014 to serve the fast-growing immigrant population of Houston. We have served students from all over the globe, speaking 12 different languages. After a COVID hiatus, the program is back and running strong, and you, the Emerson community, are its largest supporter. Please join us in this important work with your financial support. The remaining 25% of today's offering will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, which lives out our UU values on our behalf using our donated treasures by providing meals to thousands of Houston's homebound seniors each day. We honor their work, and we collect your offering with love and purpose. You can go to our webpage for giving, or put cash or check in our offering basket, or mail a check to the church. The words for our second reading today also come from Winnie the Pooh, or A.A. Milne, however you care to look at it. What's wrong with knowing what you know now and not knowing what you don't know until later?
So, I decided today that I'd like to tell you what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist minister. And I wanted to do that, and I thought this is a very clear thing I was going to do, a thing that I thought I knew until I realized that I didn't know. So what I'm going to do is I'd like to start from the beginning, which is how you become a Unitarian Universalist minister. The truth is that becoming a Unitarian Universalist minister is actually remarkably simple. The ordaining body, you become ordained. You get ordained. And as you're ordained, that's it, you're a minister. So effectively, the ordaining body, which in Unitarian Universalism is the congregation, the ordaining body essentially takes a magic wand, waves it over your head, doop, and that's it, you're a minister. That's all it takes in Unitarian Universalism. Now, most Unitarian Universalist churches won't ordain you until you've been fellowshipped. The fellowshipping process is much more elaborate. The fellowshipping, but it is true, you can become a minister just by having a church ordain you, and that's all it takes. The fellowshipping process takes a minimum of 3 years, and in my case it took 9, because I didn't quit my job. Some people, they quit their jobs and they do it full time. I didn't do that. I worked the whole time. So the fellowshipping process starts with you have to get a Master of Divinity degree. A Master of Divinity degree, I found out halfway through the process, is called a terminal degree. And I thought the reason they called it that was because it was going to kill me. But that's not what they meant, it turns out. It is a terminal degree because you are not expected to go forward after receiving that degree. There's 2 kinds of master's degrees, I guess. There's a master's degree where you're sort of working your way toward a PhD, and a master's degree where you're not working your way toward a PhD. A Master of Divinity is one of the degrees where you're not necessarily working your way toward a PhD. There are degrees like this. There's a MAT. There's lots of them. There's the Master of Arts and Teaching, the MAT, the MSW, the Master of Social Work, the MBA, the Master of Business. There's a couple more. I can't think of any more. So these are all what they call terminal degrees, but they're professional degrees. So they're not meant to be on a path of more education. They're on a path of going to then work, okay? So you get one of these Masters of Divinity degrees, and you get them at something called a seminary. And there are 2 Unitarian Universalist seminaries in the country. There's one in San Francisco and one in Chicago. I went to the one in Chicago, Meadville Lombard. The one in San Francisco is called Star King. Dan went to Star King. Right, Dan went to Star King. And there are others. Unitarian Universalism does not require you to go to a Unitarian Universalist seminary. So there's Harvard, which used to be Unitarian, but now it kind of is and kind of isn't. And there's Union, and there's Vanderbilt and Princeton, and you can get, and the woman that was here, the preacher that was here this summer is going to ILIF, which is in Denver. So you just have to get one of these Masters of Divinity degrees. You have to take your history classes and a couple other classes like theology and certain things at a UU seminary. So at the UU seminary, these people from other seminaries would come in, they'd be there for a class or 2, and then they'd disappear because they were only here they needed the requirement part. So you get your divinity degree. That costs about $80,000. And there's very little supplementing. You get your divinity degree, and then you have to do 3 internships. Mine was 2 years part-time at a church, and I had to do a rotation of being a chaplain in a hospital. It doesn't have to be in a hospital, you just have to be a chaplain. And then I had to do one at a community center. Mine was at a homeless day shelter and a GED learning center that combined. So you do all that, you get your divinity degree, and then you go sit for these boards. They're not called that, but that's roughly what it is. Other professions have boards where you get some sort of licensing. So fellowshipping is the equivalent of licensing to a lot of other professions, right? So the denomination, the Unitarian Universalist, at one point says, you're good to go, and they give you this stamp, and this stamp is called fellowship, okay? Now you can go out and get ordained, because most churches are not going to ordain you without fellowship. Although it can happen, we can't tell them no, but it can happen. So you've got your fellowship, you've got your ordination, you're all set now, right? You're going to be a minister. Not quite. You have to go through this process called search, which is kind of like this weird speed dating thing. It's very odd. It takes so much time and yet goes by so quickly. And has anybody been on a search committee here before? Several of you have. It's an odd experience, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Think about how odd it is for us, right? The ministers, because we have, some of us, $80,000 worth of student debt. We need a job. And we don't know if we're going to get a job at the end of this process, because it could be like musical chairs, where you get to the end and there's no more chairs for you. Then you, I don't know, got to go work at Home Depot or whatever it is you're going to do, right? Okay. So, the thing I want to bring up is there was this, because of the fact, and this is opinion. This is a whole, so what I've told you up to this point is factual, but I'm also going to layer some opinion in here. Because of the fact that there were some Unitarian ministers who were ordained as ministers who, quite frankly, probably shouldn't have been, because they had no training, no nothing. A church just ordained them, right? Rightly so, that's our process. There was sort of a kickback in the 40s, 50s, 60s about this. And the Unitarian Universalists went from sort of very light fellowshipping process to one of the most rigorous fellowship process of all the Protestant denominations. Now, it's not as rigorous as becoming a Jesuit or becoming a Franciscan. That can take 20 years. Right? A priest, to become a priest, not to become a brother. You can become a brother quickly, but you can't, becoming a Jesuit priest is a long process. This isn't that long, but it's pretty long and it's pretty rigorous. My Presbyterian friends and my Methodist friends, when I tell them what I had to do to become a Unitarian minister, they said, that's fine, thank you, I'll stay a Presbyterian. So that's the process to become a Unitarian Universalist minister. So here comes the commentary part. All this rigor, all this academic rigor. And Meadville, I went to Meadville. Meadville Lombard was academically rigorous. I mean, as part of the process, you have to swear that you read a stack of books that I swear is this tall. You can't. Even if you could read all those books, you can't remember anything that it came from them anyway. It's just a giant jumble in your head. And I read all those books, mostly. And it's the academic rigor that I think has affected Unitarian Universalist ministry in an odd way over the past 20 or 30 years. You get a lot of Unitarian Universalist ministers, and I know this talking to my Black Baptist friends especially in South Carolina, the Black Baptist Church chooses you to be their minister from within you. Like, one of you would be the next minister here when I'm gone. And they'd pick you. The congregation would pick you because you were the most spiritual. You were the most grounded. You didn't necessarily need a whole lot of training. You could get one of these Bible school degrees, but it was because you were who you were. The Unitarian Universalists, because of this academic rigor, we get a lot of ministers who are very academically focused. And we get a lot of sermons that are very academically focused. And I had a big learning experience once sitting at Medici Cafe in Hyde Park, Hyde Park, Chicago. And I was at lunch with another student who I can't remember, another minister who I can't remember, and another minister who I absolutely do remember. And that minister looked at us, the two students, and said, "I envy you." Now, this person was a name brand minister, a name you would have recognized. And he said, I envy you because seminaries now are producing ministers. You are learning how to be a minister. I learned how to be a theologian. And it's different. So you have a lot of UU ministers who have all this knowledge, and they love all this knowledge, and they want you to have all this knowledge. Whether you want it or not, kind of, like. So there's a that I learned sitting in that cafe. It took me a few years to process it, but I learned that that's what I didn't like about becoming a minister, was needing to be a theologian. Now, it's smart that we have all this exposure as Unitarian Universalist ministers, because talking to all of you, you are all over the place theologically. One of you may want to talk about Judaism, and then I turn around and talk to the next person, you want to talk about Buddhism, and so I have to have a basis, at least enough to be dangerous, in all of these different theologies, right? But you are much more involved in your own theology than I can ever be. I can't understand 150, 200 theologies. I can't do it. So I'm not going to try. That's what I learned sitting in that table. I'm not here to be your theologian. I'm here to be your minister. But I'm reflecting back on my 2 years here, and I have been acting kind of like a theologian since I've been here, in a way that's sort of different for me. I have noticed that when I go back, sometimes I'll say, oh, I preached that once before. I'm going to go back and find the notes that I used to preach that. And I preach from notes. I don't preach from script because I can't read, and I can't do that. I stopped trying. And my pages of notes from years ago were like, I don't know, 8 or 10 notes. I'm up to 50 and 60 lines of notes per sermon. And I'm reflecting back on that, and I'm saying, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I feeling the need to dot every I and cross every T and and I'm not saying I didn't do that back then, but I'm just feeling I'm feeling a little nervous or a little, I don't know. I'm not consciously feeling it, but I'm definitely subconsciously feeling it if I look at what I'm doing, right? What I'm doing is I'm over-preparing for every Sunday, in my estimation. I'm over-preparing for every Sunday, and I'm wondering why that is. And I keep coming down to, subconsciously, I might not trust you. Right? I might be afraid you'll get mad at me. Or I might be afraid you're going to, I won't know the right answer to the thing. Or if I say that, someone might know more than me. Blah, blah, blah. And I have to stop doing that. Because we have to be together on this journey. Right? I have to stop doing that. So I need you to trust me, and I need to trust you. Consciously, I trust you. Consciously, I love you. But there's something in me that's making me do this over-preparing, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to answer it. But I look back at that stack of books I had to read that where seminary told me I had to be this smart. Not this smart, not this smart, this smart. And I don't know that smart buys you a whole lot, especially in ministry. I think connection buys you a whole lot in ministry. And I'll tell you something that I learned early on. In any room of Unitarian Universalist, in any room, well, you ministers too, but in any room of Unitarian Universalists, I am never the smartest person in that room. Never. You all are heads and tails smarter than me. So if I say something that's incorrect or wrong, I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not doing it because I'm lazy. Maybe I got a different source than you have. But we're going to be together now, right? Hopefully for another 10 years until I'm too old to make it here. That's my plan, right? So we need to move, I think it's been 2 years, we need to move to this next level. My Black Baptist friends say, you are not the preacher. They say the word, now they're Christian, they say the word is the preacher. You are just the conduit through which the word comes. You are the speaker. You are the wire. The word is the electricity. Or in my case, I'm the pipe and the word is the water, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a metaphor. But there's a connection to the word that you just let it flow through you. And coming up with 80 pages of notes or whatever it is not letting the word flow through you. So you may be wondering where all this came from. Well, remember last week, 2 weeks ago, when I was doing the aphorisms service? One of Nicholas Taleb's aphorisms was, if the professor can't teach the lesson without prep and without notes, don't go to the class. And I read that standing right in that hole, and I said, and I had like 90 pages of notes for that sermon, and I said, what am I doing? Now, I didn't read it to you. I skipped that one, right? I didn't read it to you because it hit me in that time as I was reading it. And I said, I have to stop doing this hyper prep. I have to trust you. You have to trust me. We're going to do the best we can together. And we're going to be freaking awesome. But we can't do it if we're always worried about what each other's going to say, how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, what we're going to do. We can't do it. We're going to drive each other crazy, right? You ever been in a circumstance like that? I call it work. Isn't that what work was? You always worry, right? You always, did I do it right? Did I do it? That's what work was. Did you like that? No. So why are we doing it here? Why am I doing it here? I don't know. I don't consider this work. And that's the last thing I want to leave you with, okay? I think the thing that needs to happen before all that stuff I told you, before the magic wand and the boink and the fellowshipping and the MDiv and all that stuff, before all of that, the thing that has to happen is you have to feel a call. And what does that mean? Something outside of you is saying to you, you need to do this. I don't know why you need to do this. I don't know what you need to do, but you need to do this. That's what a call is. I worked for 28 years minus 1 week. 27 years and 51 weeks I worked as a pension consultant. I was never called to that work. I was good at it. I was called to getting paid because I had a family and I had kids and I had a mortgage. I'd have left that profession as soon as I could to be the center fielder for the Boston Red Sox, or there are 100 things I'd have left it for. but I couldn't leave it. I was never called to that. I'm called to this. But I'm treating this like that right now. I'm treating this like you're my clients, and you're not my clients, and I need to stop. So if I'm still doing that, you need to point me out. You need to say, hey, I'm not your client, because you're not my clients, right? And together, we're going to be awesome. To quote Sean Neil Barron, may we freaking sparkle. So that's my confession to you. What it means to be a UU minister. I got this far, and then for some reason I stopped. I don't know why. It's not your fault. It's my fault. But we're changing right now. Okay? Help us sing a song. Help us sing a hymn. Please stand if you're willing. Sing, don't sing, dance around, whatever it is you want to do. When the Spirit says do. I would like to thank Julia and Artem, because I learned that, what I didn't say before was I learned that Chuck Mangione died like on Friday. And I texted Julia and said, hey, how about some Chuck Mangione in the service? And she said, who's that?
Why you gotta call me out?
I'm not going to call you out. Whoa, you weren't even, you weren't even, So thank you for putting that together. I'm sure Chuck Mangione is not in your normal staple of songs, and I appreciate it. I think there's no better way to honor the passing of someone than to bring them into the room the best you can. Our time together, folks, is coming to a close. We've heard the words, we've heard the music, we've sung the songs, and we bring us into community. Our time is coming to a close, but our work is not. This faith that we share is not an easy faith. There are no simple answers, and there are many, many questions. But it is in the questions that we grow. It is in the questions that we find and hold that spark of eternal life alive in all of us. I would like to ask Alyssa to extinguish our chalice. And as she does that, Let me say, may we, in the course of our week to come, keep love at the center of our lives and in our thoughts and in our actions. May our shared values of interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity guide our every decision, easier than it sounds. May we have the strength to do all of this and have fun doing it, and may our lives be our best worship. And now, may we go in peace as a community.